Good morning and welcome to the first version of the OCP Cooling Environments Track. Over the past, since 2018, we've been looking more and more at what we call advanced cooling solutions, the concept of liquid-cooled IT and data centers. We've added to that in the past year, advanced cooling facilities, how to plug in liquid cooling. Today, in the audience, we have Caleb Lusk, Caleb, Hamed, Hanani, John Fernandez, Sean Sivaplan, Rolf Brink, John Bean, and myself, Don Mitchell, and my associate, John Minash, are representing this program.
So originally, the advanced cooling track has always fallen under the Rack Power project. The advanced cooling track has been focused on immersion cooling, cold plates, and rear door coolers. And separate from that, underneath the OCP facilities group, data center facilities group, there was a harmonization group called Advanced Cooling Facilities. And with that in mind, we've got something to announce. John, you want to take the honors?
So it made sense, and actually you're going to see as you go through the track today that there are contributions from ACF that are going to ACS and ACS that are going to ACF. And a lot of people have a hard time telling the difference between ACS and ACF if I say it too fast. So we decided to make it really simple and just start calling it the Cooling Environments Track. We have a top-level project called Cooling, so we bumped up the project. And we have, under that project, we have door heat exchangers, cold plate, immersion, advanced cooling facilities, and potentially adding a sub-project around heat reuse.
Right. So today's agenda will be also similar to this structure. So we're going to start and kick off the day with IT-based solutions. We're going to be focusing on immersion to kick the day off. And throughout the day, we'll be transferring more and more towards the facility. We'll be covering cold plate, rear door coolers, and we'll end up with the facility. And everything that we'll be talking about is going to be touching upon sustainability and efficiency, right?
Very much so.
So part of that, part of these tracks is are also a couple of topics related to servicing. There's been a great addition, a great submission contribution by Intel regarding the service, developing the mobile card for data center fluid servicing. There are universal quick disconnects and ACS door heat exchanger updates coming, and also immersion cooling equipment certification approach by UL.
And then in the afternoon, we proceed on to the facilities topics and logistics topics. And actually, this is a great example of where we're merging things together, because we did have a group called Advanced Cooling Facilities, and we're going to open up with a discussion from Advanced Cooling Facilities, talking about what are the challenges, what have been the challenges to adding liquid to data centers, and why we needed an Advanced Cooling Facilities program to address those challenges. Then we're actually going to have a discussion on what ACF has been doing the past year in terms of reference designs and guidance around how to make things simple. The second time you do anything, it's usually a lot easier and a lot less risky and a lot less costly than the first time you do anything. And we're trying to share as a community the concept of get it done, learn from each other, and make it deployable at scale. Then we're actually pulling in a discussion that actually I believe comes from the cold plate group, and they're going to look at leak detection, because anytime you talk about liquids, you have to have a discussion somewhere on leak detection, even if you have a design that will never leak, which is what we do the first part, is design a design that's never going to leak. But then we have leak detection just so in case if it does. And then you're actually going to have a discussion looking at the concept of standardizing connections. When I say standardizing connections, it sounds like a very boring topic. But the reality is, if your toaster used a different plug than your iron or everything else, you'd have a heck of a hard time using things in your household. And the same thing, what OCP did back in 2011 is the concept of standardizing connection points. We're doing the same, or trying to move the industry toward the same concept in pipe connections, which is a bit of a push, but the vendors are very favorable toward it. And then finally, we go back and we look at the concept, which is actually an interesting concept, of what if you don't even want to connect to your pipes at all? And this, again, is not part of ACF, but an initiative that's being sponsored, I believe, by Meta, that's looking at if you just want to put in liquid-cooled IT and not have the liquid go to your existing facility. So, our call to actions.
Yeah, so if you want to know more about ACF and ACS, get in touch with us. The project leads are walking around. You can reach them by email, or you can find everything you need to know about these projects on the wiki. There is not much information that we can share yet about the new top-level project and how we're going to be managing that. There's a lot of information that's still to come, but we'll be covering that in the various community calls that we're all managing.
So one thing I want to apologize for, we hadn't timed this out, okay? So we didn't time it out, and you guys walk in here barely with a coffee in your hand, and all of a sudden we machine gun you with brrrr. Okay. We can go back and take a look at one of those slides. And one thing I would like to maybe just, we got 2 or 3 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions on this particular slide here? I got a lot of questions. Go ahead.
Why isn't heat reuse?
Could you come to one of the mics, sir?
Yeah, would you mind walking over to the mic and ask a question there?
Good morning. Why isn't heat reuse without a question mark?
Because that's still to be determined. So there's been a lot of talks. It hasn't been defined yet as a project, but we're pretty keen on making that one.
I like what you brought up, and let me tell you a little bit, and I got another 1 minute to answer, or 2 minutes to answer what you're talking about. So when we first started the Advanced Cooling Facilities program, we started looking at ways of taking liquids out of the building, and one of the ways is just a pipe and a pump. And a year ago, we thought, wow, heat reuse would be a natural outcome of this discussion, especially when you start looking at elevated temperature. And so under the ACF group, we thought next year when we actually have enough time and we finish our 2 first work streams, one which is reference designs and best practices, and the other is connection standardization, which is fully absorbing our time, we need to get those mature first. Well, those are fairly mature. They're in a maintenance state right now. But we're now moving toward the concept of, on a weekly basis, reviewing heat reuse. We see that as a huge potential. The key question I see is whether or not we still keep it under the leadership of the people that have already started it with ACF, or whether or not we pull it aside as being a separate project. It's going to be something we're going to do. And might be we have a sustainability group, and some people might say, why doesn't it go under sustainability? And I would say because it's so natural to fit under the liquid side, and there's so much else that sustainability guys have to cover, we're just going to take this one and we will liaison with the sustainability group.
Exactly.
But I really appreciate the question because it actually meant that at least one person read our slide. Did anyone else read our slide?
Well, in addition to that, I just want to add as well that every single ACS group has always been historically focused on heat reuse as an outcome of the respective technologies that we're covering, right? So this is indeed one of the natural attachments to everything that we're doing in ACF and ACS.
Great example. Actually, as we were walking down here, I talked to some ACS leads, and I said, we'd like to have you be part of this project and maybe just have them be separately part of that project, because I think it's an area that anyone here who's a vendor of liquid-cooled IT is seeing that as being part of their last year was a good idea. This year, it's a mandate. So I think we got 1:30 left. It's time for one more question. Any other questions? Well, then I'm going to let you take your nap for a minute, and then we're going to get John and Rolf up here to talk about the next presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Don.